I'm ready. Maybe not quite as ready as I thought. I need my coffee. That's okay. We'll wait for one or two people to show up. Now we're talking. Well, I think in the meantime, maybe I'll share links to the first couple chapters. I still haven't put them on frickin' on YouTube properly. So I will instead just share the links of the live streams. Yes. I will share the links to the live streams of the first two chapters in the comments. And yeah, I'm really not gonna start reading until a couple people show up, at least, you know, just that link, there we go. Just because, you know, I don't want to be reading to nobody, as much as I'm enjoying this book and, you know, trying to share the experience. So yeah, we'll wait a little bit. And, you know, I'm not in a rush or anything, so no worries. So yeah, once you guys show up, if anybody does, just say hello and maybe, I don't know. Yeah. Chapter 2. I just really like Roman numerals with these kinds of things, you know? Yeah. There. And I will also pin, there we go. And I will pin that. Oh, apparently I can only have one thing pinned at a time? Okay, well, I will leave them both unpinned then. So, if anybody wants to catch up on the first couple chapters, just find the links in the comments. Skip ahead a little bit because they're just the unedited live streams. Maybe I'll give you a little recap too. I suppose. I kind of wish. I mean, I could just move my chair back a bit. All right. So, I'm going to do a quick little recap. Essentially, in the first chapter, Forrest just grew up real quick. No braces on his legs or anything. Didn't really know Jenny much as a kid. Ends up playing football, figuring out that he can run pretty good when he's being chased. Punches out a bully. I would say just watch the original live stream for a better recap. Chapter 2 was him getting enlisted. Well, he went to the all-state football banquet and did the whole I gotta pee thing. So that was cool. I gotta pee. He got drafted. He got drafted into the Vietnam War and freaked out when they did a prostate exam or whatever and ran away. So they came knocking and did some tests and determined that he was too much of an idiot. So he was let go. And ended up with him going on a date with Jenny, which went terribly because he ended up accidentally groping her and her dress got all ripped, and it was just a whole awkward moment, and there's police involvement. He went to court and basically court ordered to get out of town because there was a university that would end up taking him. Oh, this was only 10 pages, this chapter. So yeah. So it ends with him actually getting shipped off to play football in university. Not just college, university, this guy. Holy. So yeah. That's where we are. I got me a Chrysler and it sits about 20. So come on and bring me your jukebox money. The Love Shack is a little old place where we can get together. Love Shack, baby. Love Shack, baby. Love Shack, baby. Love Shack. Love Shack, baby. Love Shack. That's the opening act. The Backyard Ladies. Alright. I'm just gonna get this show on the road. I have Notepad opened up. That's cool though. Alright. Chapter 3. Yes. Okay. When we get up to the university, Coach Bryant, he come out to the gym where we're all sitting in our shorts and sweatshirts and begin making a speech. About the same kind of speech Coach Fellas would make, except even a simpleton like myself could tell this man meant business. His speech was short and sweet, and conclude with the statement that the last man on the bus to the practice field will get a ride there not on the bus, but on Coach Bryant's shoe instead. Yes, sirree. We do not doubt his word, and stack ourselves into the bus like flapjacks. All this was during the month of August, which in the state of Alabama is somewhat hotter than it is elsewhere. That is to say, that if you put an egg on top of your football helmet, it would be fried sunny side up in about 10 seconds. Of course, nobody even tried that on account of it might get Coach Bryant angry. That was one thing nobody wished to do, because the life was almost intolerable as it was. Coach Bryant have his own goons to show me around. They'd take me to where I was gonna stay, which is a nice brick building on the campus that somebody says is called the Ape Dorm. Them goons escort me over there in a car and lead me upstairs to my room. Unfortunately, what might have looked nice from the outside was not true for the inside. At first, it appeared that nobody had lived in the building for a long time. There was so much dirt and shit around, and most of the doors had been torn off the hinges and bashed in, and most of the windows were busted out too. A few of the fellas is lying on their cots inside, wearing very little, 'cause it was about 110 degrees hot in there, and flies and things be humming and buzzing. In the hall, there's a big stack of newspapers, which at first I was afraid they're gonna make us read, it being college and all. But soon I learned they are putting down on the floor so you don't have to step on all the dirt and shit when you walk around. Wow. The goons take me to my room and say they're hoping to find my roommate there, whose name is Curtis somebody, but he's nowhere to be found. So they get me my stuff unpacked and show me where the bathroom is, which looked worse than what you might expect to find at a one-pump gasoline station, and they be on their way. Oh yeah, and then they fucked off, essentially. Yeah. I was distracted because I liked the description of the one-pump gasoline station bathroom. Really paints some vivid imagery. Anyway, but before they go, one of the goons says Curtis and me should get on fine because both of us have about as much brains as an eggplant. I look real hard at the goon what said that, because I'd be tired of hearing all that shit. But he tell me to drop down and give me 50 push-ups. After that, I'd just be doing what I'm told. I went to sleep on my cot after spreading a sheet over it to cover up the dirt, and was having a dream about sitting down in the parlor with my mama like we used to when it was hot, and she'd fix me a limeade and talk to me hour after hour. Then suddenly the door of the room crashed in and flat and scared me half to death. A fella be standing in the doorway with a wild look on his face, eyes all bugged out, no teeth in front, nose looking like a yellow squash, and his hair standing straight up like he done stuck his thing in a light socket. I figured this be Curtis. He come inside the room like he expecting somebody to pounce on him, looking from side to side, and walk right over the door that he just caved in. Curtis ain't very tall, but he looked like an icebox otherwise. First thing he asked me is where I'm from. When I say Mobile, he say that is a candy-ass town, and informs me he's from Op, where they make peanut butter, and if I don't like it, he gonna open up a jar himself and butter my butt with it. That were the extent of our conversation for a day or so. That afternoon at football practice, it be about 10,000 degrees hot on the field, and all Coach Bryant's goons running round scowling and yelling at us and making us exercise, my tongue hanging down like it was a necktie or something, but I'm trying to do the right thing. Finally, they divide us up and put me with the backs, and we start to run pass patterns. Now, before I come up to the university, they done sent me a package which contained about 1 million different football plays, and I done ask Coach Fellas what I'm supposed to do with it, and he just shake his head sadly and say not to try to do nothing, just to wait till I get to the university and let them figure something out. Figure something out. I wish I had not taken Coach Fella's advice now, 'cause when I run out for my first pass, I done turned the wrong way, and the head goon come rushing up hollering and shouting at me. And when he stopped shouting, he asked me, don't I study the plays they send me? When I says, he commenced to jump up and down and flail his arms like hornets is upon him. And when he calmed down, he'd tell me to go run 5 laps around the field while he consult with Coach Bryant about me. Coach Bryant be setting up in a great big tower looking down on us like the great god Bud. I'm running the laps and watching the goon climb up there, and when he get to the top and say his piece, Coach Bryant can crane his neck forward, and I feel his eyes burning hot on my big stupid ass. Suddenly a voice come over a megaphone for everybody to hear, say, "Forrest Gump, report to the coaching tower." And I seen Coach Bryant and the goon climbing down. All the time I be running over there, I'm wishing I were running backwards instead. I was scared. But imagine my surprise when I see Coach Bryant smiling. He motioned me over to some bleachers, and we sit down, and he asked me again if I'd not learnt them plays he sent me. I began to explain that Coach Bryant what Coach Fellas had told me, but Coach Bryant, he stopped me and say for me to go get back in the line and start catching passes. And then I told him something else I guess he didn't want to hear, which was that I had never even caught a pass at high school, 'cause they figured it hard enough to get me to remember where our own goal line is, let alone running around trying to grab the ball out of the air too. At this news, Coach Bryant get a real odd squint in his eyes, and he look off in the distance as if he was looking all the way to the moon or something. Then he tell the goon to go fetch a football, and when the football come, Coach Bryant himself tell me to run out a little ways and turn around. When I do, he throwed the football at me. I see it come in almost like slow motion, but it bounced off my fingers and fall on the ground. Coach Bryant be nodding his head up and down like he should have figured this out earlier, but somehow I get the idea he is not pleased. Indeed. I don't know what he was expecting. They kind of went out of their way to get Forrest to go to their university. You figured they'd know a little bit about him, but I guess not. Okay. There are 5 pages left, halfway through this first chapter. Doesn't look like we got too many people interested today, so that's unfortunate. Oh well. Alright. Let's finish this bad boy up. From the time I'm little, every time I do something wrong, my mama, she'd say, "Forrest, you got to be careful, 'cause they're gonna put you away." I was so scared of being in this putting this away place, I'd always try to be better. But I'm damned if there's a worse place they could have sent me than this 8-dorm thing I'm living in. People be doing shit they wouldn't have tolerated even in the nut school. Ripping out the toilets, for instance, so you go to the bathroom and wouldn't find nothing but a hole in the floor to shit in. And they'd have heaved the toilet out the window on the top of somebody's car driving past. One night, some big old goofball was played in the line, got out a rifle and commenced to shoot out all the windows in somebody's fraternity house across the street. The campus cops came rushing over, but the fella dropped a big outboard motor he found someplace out the window onto the top of the cop car. Holy. Coach Bryant make him run a bunch of extra laps for doing that. Jesus. These guys are whack. Curtis and me ain't getting along so hot, and I never been so lonely. I miss my mama and want to go back home. Trouble with Curtis is I don't understand him. Everything he say got so many cuss words in it. Time I get to figuring out what they are, I miss his point. Most of the time, I gather his point is that he ain't happy about something. Curtis had a car, and he used to give me a ride to practice. But one day, I go to meet him, and he cussing and growling and bent over a big drain grate in the street. Seems he's got a flat tire, and when he go to change it, he put the lug nuts in his hubcap and accidentally knock 'em down into the drain. We fixin' to be late to practice, which was not real good to do, so I say to Curtis, why don't you take one lug nut off each of them 3 other tires, and that way you will have 3 lug nuts on each tire, which ought to be enough to get us to practice. Curtis stopped cussin' for a moment and looked up at me and say, "You're supposed to be an idiot. How you figure that out?" And I say, "Maybe I'm an idiot, but at least I ain't stupid." And at this, Curtis jumped up and commenced chasing me with the tire tool, calling me every terrible thing he can think of, and that pretty much ruined our relationship. After that, I decided I got to find another place to stay. So when we get off from practice, I gone down into the basement of the 8th dorm and spent the rest of the night there. It wasn't no dirtier than the upstairs rooms, and there was an electric light bulb. Next day, I moved my cot down there, and from then on, it was where I lived. Meantime, school is done, started. School is done, started. And they got to figure out what to do with me. There was a guy with the athletic department that seemed to do nothing but figure out how to get dumbos to where they could pass a class. Some of the classes were supposed to be easy, such as physical education, and they enrolled me in that. But also, I have got to take one English course and one science or math, and there is no getting around that. What I learned later was that there was certain teachers that would give a football player a sort of break, meaning that they'd appreciate he is consumed with playing football and cannot spend much of his time on school. In other words, they'd appreciate he's too dumb. But oh well, anyway, there was one of these teachers in the science department, but unfortunately, the only class he taught was something called Intermediate Light, which was apparently for graduate physics majors or something. But they put me in there anyhow, even though I didn't know physics from phys ed. Oh, this book isn't in the best condition. I was not so lucky in English. They apparently did not have no sympathetic people over in that department. So they told me to just go ahead and take the class and fail it, and they'd figure out something else later. In Intermediate Light, they provide me with a textbook that weighs 5 pounds and looked like a Chinaman wrote it. But every night, I take it down to the basement and sit on my cot under the light bulb. And after a while, for some peculiar reason, it begun to make sense. Wow, he's learning. Aww. For some peculiar reason, for no reason in particular, it begun to make sense. This Forrest is not silly at all. He's a smart man. Alright, anyway. What did not make sense was why we were supposed to be doing it in the first place, but figuring out them equations was easy as pie. Professor Hooks was my teacher's name, and after the first test, he asked me to come to his office after class. He said, "Forrest, I want you to tell me the truth. Did somebody provide you the answers to those questions?" And I shake my head, and then he had me a sheet of paper with a problem written on it, and says for me to sit down and figure it out. When I'm through, Professor Hooks looked at what I'd done and shake his head and said, "Great God Almighty." English class was another deal entirely. The teacher is a Mr. Boone, and he was a very stern person who talked a lot. At the end of the first day, he said for us to sit down that night and write a short autobiography of ourselves for him. It's just about the most difficult thing I ever tried to do, but I stay up most of the night thinking and writing, and I just say whatever come to mind on account of they told me to fail the class anyhow. A few days later, Mr. Boone started handing back our papers, and he criticizing and making fun of everyone's autobiography. Then he come to what I done, and figure I'm in the doghouse, and I figure I'm in the doghouse for sure. But he hold up my paper and start reading it out loud to everyone, and he commenced laughing at everybody else's, and everybody else's too. I told him about being in the nut school and playing football for Coach Fellers and going to the all-state football banquet and about the draft board and Jenny Curran, essentially everything we read up to this point. And the movie and all. When he's through, Mr. Boone, he say, "Now here is originality. Here is what I want." And everybody turn and look at me, and he says, "Mr. Gump, you ought to think about getting into the creative writing department. How did you think this up?" And I says, "I gotta pee." It's his fucking catchphrase. Holy shit. It's like the third fucking time. Oh, good. Okay. Oh, God. Mr. Boone kind of jumped back for a second, and then he bust out laughing, and so does everybody else, and he says, "Mr. Gump, you are a very amusing fella." And so I'm surprised again. Fuck, man. So good. Alright. Getting close to the end of this chapter here. The first football game was on a Saturday, and a few weeks later. Most of the time, practice had been pretty bad, till Coach Bryant figured out what to do with me, which was about what Coach Fellers had done at high school. They just give me the ball and let me run. I ran good that day, and scored 4 touchdowns, and we whipped the oh shit, my glasses broke. Gosh darn it. Fuck it. Ugh. So annoying. Yes, I scored 4 touchdowns. It was wonderful. And we whipped the University of Georgia 35-3. And everybody slapping me on the back till it hurt. After I get cleaned up, I phoned my mother. And she went and listened to the game over the radio and is so happy she can bust. That night, everybody going to the parties and shit, but nobody asked me to any, so I go on down to the basement. I'm there a while when I hear this kind of music coming up from some place upstairs, and it's real pretty like, and I don't know why, but I went on up there to find out what it was. There was this guy, Bubba, sitting in his room playing a mouth organ. Wow, cool, he's meeting Bubba. That's nice. He broke his foot in practice and couldn't play, and didn't have nowhere to go either. He let me sit on a cot and listen to him. We didn't talk or anything. He's just sitting on a cot, on one cot, and me on the other, and he's playing his harmonica. And after about an hour, I asked him if I could try it, and he says, okay, or whatever. Little did I know that it would change my life forever. After I'd played around on the thing for a while, I got to where I could play pretty good, and Bubba was going crazy. He said he'd never heard such good shit. After it got late, he said for me to take the harmonica with me, and I did, and played it quite a long time, till I got sleepy and went to bed. The next day was Sunday again, and the caterpillar ate one nice green leaf, and after that, he felt much better. That night he went to bed and made himself a cocoon around himself, and there he stayed for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, he came out of the cocoon, and he was a beautiful butterfly. The end. And that was the very hungry caterpillar. Okay. No, I got confused. This is... oh shit. I smoked too much pot. I started reading a different book. Anyway, next day, Sunday, I went to take the harmonica back to Bubba, but he said for me to keep it, 'cause he got another one, and I was real happy, and went for a walk and sat down under a tree and played all day long, till I run out of things to play. It was late in the afternoon, and the sun was almost gone when I begun to walk back to the ape dorm. I was going across the quadrangle when suddenly I hear this girl's voice shout out, "Forrest!" I turned around, and who should be behind me but Jenny. She has a big smile on her face, and she come up and took me by the hand and said she saw me play football yesterday and how good I was and all. Turns out she ain't mad or anything about what happened in the movie, and says it ain't my fault. It was just one of them things. She asked me if I want to have a Coca-Cola with her. It was too nice to believe, sitting there with Jenny, and she says she's taking classes in music and drama, and that she's planning on being an actress or a singer. She also playing in a little band that do folk music stuff, and tells me they're gonna be at the Student Union building tomorrow night, and for me to come by. Let me tell you, I can hardly wait. And neither can I. That concludes Chapter 3 of Forrest Gump. I say neither can I, but you know what? Gonna wait anyway. So, yep, I'll open it up to any questions now for the audience. Oh, yeah. You have any questions about the book so far, or about life in general? Now's the time. I will leave the line open, and I will take caller number 1 as soon as you're ready. So let's rock and roll here. In the meantime, probably around the time of my first time cooking my signature spaghetti and meat sauce. About that time. Thanks, Vern. Thanks, Vernon John Ledger. Country singer extraordinaire. Any more questions here about the book? I see we have more people right now than during the actual reading, so I'm thinking maybe you'll just have to start it over when it gets uploaded after. So, yeah, that's that. I think I'm done here. I don't know. I think so. I think I'm gonna read the whole book. We'll see. I'm also gonna like edit it properly and put it up on YouTube for the archives. Debating playing music, but this isn't a music live stream. This is a reading live stream, so I don't know why I'm still even doing this. So yeah.